In the quiet city of Gyeongju, South Korea, there was an ancient temple that had been standing for over 1,000 years. The locals knew it well, and despite its age, it was a place of peace and reverence. But there was one part of the temple that was always avoided by those who had heard the stories, the Forbidden Room. This room was locked away behind a heavy wooden door, adorned with strange symbols and intricate carvings. Most of the temple's monks refused to speak of it, and those who had tried to venture inside were said to have vanished without a trace. For years, it was just a part of the temple's mystery, a place to which no one dared go. Jiwon, a curious young university student, had grown up in Gyeongju. She loved history and often visited the temple to admire its architecture and the serene atmosphere. She had heard the rumors, of course, but she wasn't one to believe in ghost stories or superstitions. One afternoon, after a long day of studying, Jiwon decided to take a walk through the temple grounds to clear her mind. As she wandered through the paths, her eyes landed on the old wooden door that led to the Forbidden Room. The carvings on the door seemed more detailed than she remembered. She had seen it before, but today it felt different. Something was pulling her toward it. Without thinking, Jiwon approached the door and placed her hand on the cool wood. To her surprise, it creaked open, as though it hadn't been locked in years. Her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. She stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, with only the faint glow of the sun filtering through the cracks in the wooden walls. In the center of the room was a large, ancient mirror. The frame was covered in dust and the glass seemed to shimmer, even though there was no direct light. It was oddly mesmerizing, and Jiwon found herself drawn to it. As she approached the mirror, the air grew colder, and a sense of unease settled over her. Her reflection in the mirror looked wrong. Her features were distorted, and there was a faint, shadowy figure standing behind her, just out of view. Jiwon's breath caught in her throat. She spun around quickly, but there was nothing there. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly turned back to the mirror. The figure was still there, but this time it was closer, its face barely visible in the reflection. It was a woman, her eyes hollow and dark, her mouth twisted into a silent scream. Frozen with fear, Jiwon reached out a trembling hand to touch the mirror. The coldness of the glass seeped into her fingers, and for a moment, the woman's reflection seemed to smile, a wicked, knowing smile. Jiwon's breath came in shallow gasps as the world around her seemed to warp. The air felt thick, as though something heavy was pressing against her chest. Suddenly, the room seemed to spin. The reflection of the woman in the mirror began to move independently, stepping out from the glass as if it were liquid, her long black hair flowing like dark tendrils. Jiwon stumbled backward, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. She could feel her pulse thundering in her ears, the sound deafening. With a final scream, the woman in the mirror lunged at Jiwon, and in that moment everything went black. The next morning, the temple grounds were quiet. The monks went about their daily duties as they always did, but when one of the younger monks passed by the Forbidden Room, he noticed that the door was wide open. He stepped inside cautiously, his heart beating in his chest. There in the center of the room lay a single object, a small black stone. The stone was cold to the touch, and it seemed to pulse with an energy that sent a chill down his spine. He picked it up, but when he looked around, he saw no sign of Jiwon. Days passed and no one had seen or heard from Jiwon. Her family searched the city, asking anyone if they had seen her, but it was as though she had simply vanished. The police were baffled, and even the monks were left with uneasy silence. The Forbidden Room, however, remained locked once more, the door firmly shut. The only thing that remained was the black stone, a stone that had once belonged to the woman in the mirror. Months later, Jiwon's body was found in a nearby forest. She had been in a state of shock, muttering incoherently about a mirror, about a woman, and about something evil that had followed her back from the temple. When they examined her, her reflection was completely normal, except for one chilling detail. In her right eye, there was a faint image of a dark, hollow figure. And so, the story of the Mirror of Gyeongju became another whispered tale, a warning to those who might be curious enough to seek out the mysteries that are best left undisturbed.